welcome to the Matthew Doyle Journalism 2311 podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Doyle, and I'm joined by Mark LaFrance, a sports information director for Ohio Athletics. Mark, how's it going?
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Now, Mark graduated from Syracuse University and came to Ohio University after working at Notre Dame. Now, Mark, as the Ohio SID, what are your responsibilities?
Sure. Well, the main thing we do is we kind of serve as the liaison between the athletic department and, external publics, whether it be, fans or media or, any sort of organization that, wants to work with our teams and our athletic department, basically. So, on a day-to-day basis, we'll set up interviews with our coaches and student athletes, with the media. We handle all the statistics for each sport. We keep them. We compile them during games, and then we archive them. We kind of serve as the reporters for the department, so we write all the stories, recaps, previews, feature stories on our websites. We handle video interviews on the website, do all the social media for Ohio Athletics, and it's a bunch of different hats, but it's an enjoyable experience for sure. So
now those are several responsibilities for the program. Out of all of those things, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
Sure. I would definitely say working with the student athletes. I think that you can work in a conference office in our field, and, it's always kind of, intriguing for people because the hours are a lot less. You can go home at 5 o'clock every day, but you kind of miss that interaction with student athletes on a regular basis. You get to, really get to know them, and you kind of start pulling for them because, especially at places like Ohio where, our student athletes are, for the most part, such good people and such good students that you really want to promote them as best as you can. And when you can successfully promote them, whether it be for, a Player of the Year award or, any sort of recognition for their community service or any sort of civic things, I think those are the parts that, we really enjoy, I think, in our department.
Now, it's because of all the athletic programs at Ohio University, it's impossible for you just to do the SID position. You're joined by Tom Simmons and Mike Ashcraft, who also worked with the football team. What specific sports do you work with?
Sure. I work with men's basketball, our outstanding volleyball program, which just made the NCAA tournament this year, our outstanding field hockey program, men's golf, and track, which, also it's been, great opportunities. We've had some outstanding student athletes on each team, and, it's been great working with all of them for sure.
What's your favorite team to work with?
I'll probably plead the fifth on that one. I really enjoy men's basketball because of the high-profile nature of it, being able to, work with writers from, ESPN and CBS and things like that. But, the sports that may not get as much attention, such as, golf or track, when you really do go out of your way to work with them, sometimes that's just as rewarding because they really appreciate, the coverage that they get and the promotion they get. And they frankly, deserve it just as much as, some of our high profile, TV sports and whatnot. So
is there a certain athlete that you enjoy having conversations with that really intrigue you?
Sure. I would say I really enjoy working with John Smith on the basketball team. He has a very mature sense of humor, and he's very well spoken. He most of the time doesn't realize that or doesn't believe he is, but he's probably one of our best interviews at Ohio University. And, when we can get him to embrace interviews, he does a really good job. And, that's something that, is rewarding, seeing an athlete that maybe doesn't really like doing something, but when they do it, they do it well, and trying to push them in that direction, I think, is something that can be a good experience.
Now, you said you've worked with several famous media members outside of guys like Matthew Doyle and Nick Chimiotti, who's running the boards for us on this podcast. Who is the most famous media member that you've dealt with so far?
Here or in general?
In general.
I did some things with Sean McDonough and Tirico and went to a few Bob Costas things when I was at Syracuse. But here, I pitched something to Pat Forty last year that he picked up, which I thought was cool.
Pat Forty of Yahoo.
Mm-hmm. And then I worked a lot with Matt Norlander, who, is kind of a rising blogger / reporter for CBS, national CBS. And then, we've started to develop relationships with Scott Gleason and Nicole Auerbach for USA Today. They really, really support mid-major programs. And, having reporters like that, one of the best things about sort of sports media expanding to include blogs and things like that is that there is a growing market for good mid-major stories and and mid-major talent in general. And I think the reporters that we work with appreciate that, and it's nice to see for sure.
All right. Thank you for taking the time and joining me in studio today, Mark. I've enjoyed having you and look forward to seeing you running around the OU basketball games with all the stats for the media members. And also, shout out to Nick once again for handling the boards during this podcast. And for Mark LaFrance and Nick Camiotti, I'm Matthew Doyle. Thanks for listening.